Thank you for sticking around this afternoon to hear me speak and share my story with you. I'm sure the temptation was definitely there to get away into the sun and so on and so forth, so really pleased that you've stuck around. I wasn't sure, to be honest, whether the people that would stick around would just be a group of Eddie Stobart fans and Eddie Stobart spotters. Do we have any in the room? Yeah, we do have a few in the room. I think if anybody's ever played the game, went on a long journey and they are spotting the trucks and seeing how many names they can find on a long journey, then I think you're already halfway there to being an Eddie Stobart spotter. And we're delighted to have you on board. Mainly due to the fact, a little bit of a fun fact to be completely honest, is people don't often realise the importance of the Eddie Stobart spotters and what they bring to our organisation. A long time ago, when our organisation was going through a bit of a difficult time, believe it or not, the spotters and the fan club actually generated the revenue that kept the business going for a period of time, believe it or not. So a bit of a fun fact for you there. Obviously, let's move on to what I'm here to talk to you about. I'm here to talk to you about, obviously, establishing a digital learning agenda. I joined the Eddie Stobart business around about 3 years ago, and I think you have to understand where the business was first to really appreciate the journey that we went on. Eddie Stobart was a family business, a very successful family business, organically growing, but ultimately the business was at a position where it needed to change its culture and move from more of a family business into more of a corporate entity. All training and all people development aspects that took place within Eddie Stobart's was all face-to-face, believe it or not, only 3 years ago. Everything that we did was face-to-face delivery. Everybody's thinking, the cost of that must have been astronomical, and it was. So, there was a hell of a lot to go at, a lot of low-hanging fruit when I joined the business. What I often say to people within my team, people who join the business within Eddie Stobart's, I often talk about spotting your opportunities, and that's spotting your opportunities to build credibility and build integrity. But when I talk about spotting opportunities here, and what I'm talking about is spotting your opportunities to align with the business. And ultimately, this is what was our opportunity to align with the business to move to a digital learning agenda. So on the 25th of April 2017, Eddie Stobart floated on the London Stock Exchange AIM market, ultimately to drive growth and expansion. We did that with basically a number of acquisitions. Acquisitions, as you can see there, so iForce in April 2017, followed by Speedy Freight in July 2017, then followed by the Logistics People, which is actually a recruitment agency, in August 2017, followed by the Pallet Network in June 2018. So ultimately, what did this give us? This gave us a huge scale, a huge organisation now that had developed pretty much overnight. We were a big organisation anyway, but ultimately with these acquisitions, we, as you can see there, go the length and breadth of the UK. So what did we need to do? We needed to have a way to drive consistency across 5 completely different businesses, all with their own culture, all with their own ways of working, to ultimately have a consistent approach to development. So, what was our solution? So, we ultimately went through a process where we looked to identify a partner that we could work with to drive a consistent approach to people development across the Eddie Stobart Group. From that was born My Development, which is our learning management system, which ultimately, with Learning Pool and Totara, we developed along with a load of digital content that was needed to ultimately upskill our organisation and drive our consistency in relation to what it meant to be a public limited company. How did we do that though? As you can probably appreciate, as I already mentioned, this very traditional organisation, whenever change was afoot, was very sceptical. They were very, very sceptical in relation to adopting a learning management system. the investment, what it was going to mean, the time, the commitment for people. Ultimately, we had to go through a process. That process started right with our CEO, who ultimately was very questioning of the value, why we wanted to do it, all of these types of things. And with Learning Pool as our preferred partner, they actually supported us in relation to selling that dream and selling how that was going to work for us. But my development is a system. And ultimately, it's easy for us within L&D, HR, to think to ourselves that we can see the benefits in this, and ultimately we've sold the dream to our CEO and the executive board. Everybody now is just going to fall into line. As you can probably appreciate, that never is the case. So ultimately, what did we have to do? We had to focus on the people. And I think my role completely changed from being a head of learning and development to actually being a very good salesperson, where ultimately I had to go around all heads of departments, all elements of our organization to basically try and sell the dream, but also to look at what the needs and the requirements were for each and every department within our organization, to ultimately drive what I would call the change. Now, the change, we didn't want to be done to people. We wanted people to do the change for us. So we needed to create this burning platform that they all bought into to drive this change. So we showcased the system. Now, one of the great things why we chose Totara and Learning Pool to work with is ultimately the flexibility of the system. We ultimately were able to take control and build it how we wanted to build it. And we built it with simplicity in mind. So we built it with a people focus, because again, if anyone's ever seen traditional branding from Eddie Stobart, it's all trucks and trailers. We're good at promoting the trucks and trailers that we have, and we're very proud of how we keep them. But we made this system with a real people focus. We wanted to make it simple, and basically we created an environment which led to no more than 3 clicks to ever get to any form of development that you wanted. And we ultimately created this system so it was one point of access for all types of development within the Eddie Stobart group. It also opened up a raft of possibilities for us, things that we just didn't do previously. Things as simple as where we always used to deliver face-to-face Microsoft Excel classroom courses, we didn't reinvent the wheel. We basically created a page which linked to the Microsoft Ultimate e-learning content that is available on the web now. We didn't write our own, we didn't create our own, we basically linked to it. We invested in a piece of software called Camtasia, which is a piece of software which ultimately allows you to record the screen that you're working on at this moment in time. And we now do all of our systems-based training via this. If you've seen traditional YouTube style videos, like we all need to know how to do things, we'll go to YouTube. I've done it before. I think when I did it when I first learned to tie a tie, you ultimately go to YouTube and you look how to do it. A win's a knot, few attempts, and I'm done. And ultimately, this is what we do now with all types of development within Eddie Stobart. Other things, articulate, adapt, all of these different tools are now enable us to create various different types of development that are all accessible at any point where the individual might need some support. What else has it done for us? It's created the opportunity for us to have blended programs. As I said, everything used to be traditionally done face-to-face classroom delivery. We now have management and leadership programs, as you can see there, known as License to Manage and License to Lead, where we have a combined approach using digital to provide knowledge and information to individuals that are required, their various different levels, but also access to face-to-face workshops, which are still very important, but still having that digital content available, which they can refer back to following the workshop. Now, as I opened up at the start and told you about a very traditional, skeptical organization, can you believe that over this two and a half year period, what I'm going to say that we've now moved on to? We've now moved on to a type of gamification where we're now encouraging people to collect all of their badges. A bit like Pokemon Go, if you're familiar with that. And ultimately, we do have essential learning, which is required for us as an organisation, for being a PLC, right through our license to manage and our license to lead programs. We create league tables and so on and so forth to ultimately drive that engagement, drive that compliance, drive that improvement to the way we operate right across the group. Now, ultimately, none of this would have been possible in any way, shape or form without the support of the partner that we work with. When I was tendering for a partner to work with, I wasn't necessarily looking for somebody who could give me the best system. I was looking for somebody who could ultimately be an extension of our team and ultimately look at what we do and ultimately look at what we need to do and actually focus on our success. Because without our success, our supplier is not going to be a success. And ultimately, that is what we found with Learning Pool and Totara. We ultimately now have a situation where when our business stepped forward into adopting digital learning as a new way of working, we had a number of different challenges where people didn't want to go the whole hog, they wanted to test it out. We had a small pilot group, and ultimately that's where the cell come in. But ultimately, Learning Pool understood that and could see the end goal and the end vision of ultimately what we wanted to achieve, and ultimately worked with us and probably did more than what they needed to do to ultimately enable us to drive that change within our organisation. And that's why I'm here today to obviously talk to you about that story. What else has it done for us within Eddie Stobart, and what's it done for me, and what's it done for my team? Well, over the last 3 years, as I said, we are now ultimately within our industry, I believe, at the forefront of what we do in relation to people development. Digital learning is just one aspect, but it is definitely helping drive the culture and what we're doing within Eddie Stobart's to ultimately make us the best at what we do. As you can see there, 2017, we won the People Development Awards at the Logistics Leaders Network. In 2018, you can see me on the stage there with Jimmy Carr, I hope, where we won the Training Award at the Motor Transport Awards, which is the pretty prestigious award within the transport industry. And only 2 weeks ago now, we won Training Team of the Year at Talent in Logistics. And ultimately, our digital learning agenda is one of those things that help strive us forward. So I hope you can see the journey that we've been through. I hope you can see how we've had to probably overcome some challenges, and it's been a challenge at times. But with the support of the partners that we now work with, we've been able to make great steps, and we continue to make great leaps forward. So thank you very much, and I'm happy to take any questions that you may well have. Okay.
What's the difference between Totara and Learning Pool?
So Totara is the system, and Learning Pool are the provider who sell the system to us, who we work with to obviously adapt the system to the way we want it to work. Any other questions?
How many employees did you have in your team? How big was your team when you were doing it?
So believe it or not, how many employees do I have in my team? I didn't have anybody in relation to digital learning. So when I mentioned the hard sell to the CEO, that come with increasing my team. That come with people, which obviously people can often be skeptical and nervous about investing in because we know obviously if it doesn't work what that potentially ultimately means. So as part of the sell into the CEO, it was to increase the team. And ultimately within the team now I have a lead in relation to digital learning, an innovation in relation to what we're doing, and the Pokemon Go was his idea. And we have a few people now who ultimately are responsible for digital learning within Eddie Stobart. And I hope that that will continue to grow as the group continues to grow. Any other questions? No? Thank you very much. Thank you.